The message arrived just after midnight. A simple text from Uncle Ray. "You need to see this." Attached was a video file. No explanation. No warning. Curious, I tapped on it, and as the grainy footage began to play, my stomach turned to stone. There they were. My family, mom, dad, my older brother, Jason, all sitting around the kitchen table, laughing, talking like they didn't have a care in the world. The warm glow of the chandelier overhead cast a soft light over the scene, making it look almost like a wholesome family gathering. But it wasn't. Not even close. I turned the volume up, and my mother's voice came through, sharp and dripping with disdain. "You know what's funny?" she said, swirling a glass of wine in her hand. "Mia really thinks she's doing something special." My brother snorted. "Right? Like she's some kind of hero. She sends a little money, and suddenly, she thinks she's the backbone of this family." A little money. I froze. The phone gripped tight in my hands. For the past 4 years, I had been paying their mortgage, quietly, every month, like clockwork. Through an LLC I created, I had ensured that their home, the very roof over their heads, remained theirs. They thought they were paying a small portion to some bank, unaware that I was covering the rest. And yet here they were, mocking me. Dad didn't say anything at first. He just sat there, nodding along, his fingers tapping idly against the table. Mom scoffed. "After everything we've done for her, it's the least she can do." "The least?" Jason leaned back in his chair, a smirk tugging at his lips. "She acts like we should be grateful or something. It's pathetic. Like, congratulations, you have a tech job. Who cares?" A slow, sickening heat spread through my chest. I had spent years working my ass off, climbing my way up the industry ladder while they sneered at my career choices. They always wanted me to join Dad's real estate business, to keep the family legacy alive. But I had chosen my own path, and for that, they resented me. "I swear," Mom continued, setting her glass down with a sharp clink, "she thinks she's above us. She owes us." Dad finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "She'll always owe us." That hit harder than I expected. I idolized my father as a child. He had been my rock, my guide, the one who encouraged me when Mom and Jason scoffed at my dreams. But now? Now he sat there, silently agreeing as they tore me apart. The video ended abruptly, shaky as if it had been recorded in secret. For a long moment, I just stared at my screen, my face unreadable. My heart should have been pounding with rage. My hands should have been shaking, but they weren't. Instead, I felt something else. Clarity. I played the video again, and again. Each time, the numbness spread a little further, until all that remained was cold calculation. A second text came in from Uncle Ray. "They've been talking like this for months." I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I inhaled slowly, then exhaled, my eyes still locked on the frozen image of my family, mid-laughter, completely unaware that they had just signed their own downfall. They thought I owed them? They had no idea. I tapped on my laptop, pulling up the financial records for my LLC Nova Holdings. A neat, organized spreadsheet displayed every mortgage payment I had made on their behalf. Total contributions, $236,700. Their contributions, $48,500. I covered nearly everything, and yet they had the audacity to call it a little help. But they had never actually read the fine print of the mortgage agreement. They assumed they were dealing with a faceless lender. They never questioned how they'd managed to keep their home despite Jason's failing real estate investments and Mom's reckless spending habits. The truth? I owned it. And they were about to find out. I picked up my phone and typed a simple reply to Uncle Ray. "Thank you for showing me the truth. Don't worry, I won't tell them you sent this. But trust me, things are about to change." I had spent years being their safety net. This time, I'd let them fall. For years ago, everything was different. Back then, my family wasn't laughing over drinks, tearing me down like I was some kind of fool. They were desperate. It was the middle of a housing crisis, and Jason had just made one of the worst real estate deals of his life, a commercial property that flopped almost immediately. The mortgage on the family home was falling behind, and with Dad's income shrinking, the bank was preparing to take action. Mom had called me, voice dripping with controlled panic, doing her best to sound composed while laying on the guilt. "We just need a little help, Mia," she had said. "Just until things settle." I was 27 at the time, already building a solid career in tech, making more than enough to be comfortable. But they had never seen my job as real success. In their eyes, Jason was the golden child, the one with real business sense, even as he drove the family into financial ruin. Meanwhile, my work in software development was a waste of time, a temporary job I'd eventually grow out of. Jason is working so hard to keep the business going. Mom had sighed into the phone that night, her voice soft, patient, waiting for me to offer. We just need a little cushion. You don't want to see us lose the house, do you? Guilt. It had always worked on me before. I could have just given them the money outright, but I knew how that would end. Jason would take it as permission to make another bad deal, Mom would find a way to spend it, and Dad, despite his silent disapproval, would let it happen. So I went to Kate, my financial advisor, and laid everything out. You want to help them, she had said, scanning the numbers. But you don't want them to have control over it. I nodded. Then don't give them the money. Buy the house through an LLC and let them think they're still dealing with the bank. That way, you keep everything legally protected and they still get to believe they're handling it themselves. It was perfect. I created Nova Holdings LLC, purchased their mortgage from the bank, and structured it so they only had to pay a small fraction each month, enough to keep their pride intact. The rest? I covered myself quietly. They never even read the paperwork properly. I had set it up in a way that, if they ever defaulted, Nova Holdings had the right to take ownership of the property immediately. Kate had insisted on that clause, calling it just a precaution. At the time, I had agreed without thinking much of it. Now, I was grateful for my own foresight. For years, things went smoothly. They made their small payments on time, never questioning why they weren't paying as much as the neighbors. Jason continued pretending to be the financial expert of the family, and Mom acted as though they had gracefully overcome their financial troubles. Meanwhile, I was quietly covering thousands of dollars every month, ensuring that they never had to face the consequences of their recklessness. And yet, they still resented me. I might have never realized just how much if it weren't for Uncle Ray. The day after he sent the video, he followed up with screenshots, messages from a private family group chat I had been deliberately excluded from. The name of the chat? Family Finances. The messages were worse than the video. Jason, Mia acts like she's doing us a favor. Meanwhile, I'm the one here every day keeping this family together. Mom, she's single, no kids, no responsibilities. She can afford to help more. Jason, exactly. She's just selfish. She hoards money while we struggle. Dad, we'll talk to her. She can contribute more. She owes us. Owes them. They spoke about me like I was nothing more than a resource, a bank account they could tap into whenever they needed. I scrolled through the messages again, something inside me going ice cold. They had no idea that their entire home was mine, that their roof only existed because I allowed it to, and now I wasn't going to allow it anymore. I didn't react right away. Not to the video. Not to the messages. Not to the overwhelming realization that the people I had spent years protecting saw me as nothing more than a walking ATM. Instead, I did what I had always done. I played along. When Mom called the next morning, her voice was syrupy sweet, as if she hadn't been mocking me just days before. Sweetheart, are you coming for dinner on Sunday? I forced a smile into my voice. Of course. I won't miss it. She made a pleased sound. Good. We have something important to discuss. I already knew what that something was. I kept my tone light. Everything okay? Oh, just the usual. You know how it is. Times are tough, she sighed, the familiar thread of calculated helplessness woven into her words. We'll talk more when you get here. I knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted me curious, concerned, emotionally invested before she even made the request. It almost made me laugh. I ended the call and immediately dialed Kate. She picked up on the second ring. Let me guess, she said dryly. They need more money. Bingo. I heard the click of her keyboard in the background. I assume you're not planning to give it to them? I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening on my phone. No. But I need to make sure they have no way to manipulate their way out of what's coming. Kate's voice turned sharp. All business. Good. I've already gone over the paperwork. The purchase agreement is ironclad. If they miss a payment, Nova Holdings has the right to take full ownership of the property immediately. They won't even get a grace period. I felt something settle inside me, a kind of cold certainty I hadn't realized I was capable of. "So, if they default," I said carefully, "they're no longer homeowners. Just tenants." "Exactly," Kate confirmed. "And if they don't pay rent, eviction laws apply." I let that sink in. For years of covering for them, for years of protecting them from their own bad decisions, for years of playing the good daughter while they sat around laughing at my expense. And in 2 weeks, they were going to lose everything. I kept quiet, watching as the perfect storm gathered around them. 3 days later, Jason sent me a text.
"Hey, sis.
Quick question, can we count on you to help a little more with the mortgage this month? Just temporary." I let the message sit unread for hours. By evening, he sent another. "I know you've got savings. Mom and Dad have sacrificed so much for us. It's only right that we step up." Step up. As if I hadn't already paid almost $250,000 to keep them in their house. I still didn't respond. A day later, Mom called again. "Sweetheart, I don't want to stress you out, but we're in a bit of a bind. The mortgage company, well, they're being unreasonable. We just need a little help to make sure we don't fall behind." I bit back a laugh. "They're threatening foreclosure?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Mom hesitated. "Not yet, but they will if we don't send the payment soon." She sounded genuinely nervous, as if she could feel something shifting but couldn't quite put her finger on it. I stayed quiet for a moment, pretending to consider. "I'll see what I can do," I said finally. It was just enough to give her hope. Hope that I was still under their control. Hope that I wasn't the one holding the strings. The next mortgage payment was due in 9 days. For the first time, I wouldn't be paying it. Dinner at my parents' house was always a performance, and tonight was no different. I arrived right on time, the scent of Mom's lasagna filling the house like a scripted memory, meant to remind me of childhood and warmth and obligation. The table was set, candles flickering, wine already poured into the glasses. Jason sat at his usual spot, looking smug, while Dad read through some papers, his reading glasses perched on the bridge of his nose. Mom greeted me with a wide smile, pulling me into a hug that lingered just a little too long. "Sweetheart, I'm so glad you could make it." I returned the embrace, forcing an easy smile. "Of course. Always happy to see family." I sat down, watching as they exchanged subtle glances. The air was thick with something unspoken. They had a plan. I just didn't know which one of them would make the first move. It was Jason. "Well," he started, clearing his throat, "before we eat, we wanted to talk about something important." Mom reached across the table, taking my hand in hers, her grip just a little too firm. "Mia, we've been thinking a lot lately about how blessed we are to have you in our lives. You're so successful, and it's been amazing watching you build your career." I bit back a smirk. "Here it comes." Dad set his papers down and sighed, adopting the stern but wise father act. "The truth is, the business has been struggling. And the mortgage, well, it's been a lot. We're barely keeping up." Mom gave my hand a gentle squeeze. "And you're doing so well, sweetheart. You're in tech. You don't have the same stress as we do. We thought, maybe you could help a little more. Just until things get better." I took a slow sip of my wine. "How much are we talking about?" Jason leaned forward. "Just $2,000 more a month. It's nothing for you, really." I almost laughed. 2,000 more. On top of the thousands I had already been paying, the money they didn't even know was coming from me. I set my glass down and tilted my head. "I'll think about it." Jason frowned. "What's there to think about? Times are uncertain," I said lightly, using his favorite excuse. "I just want to be careful with my money. You understand, right? It's just good business sense." Jason's jaw clenched. Mom patted my hand again. "Family always comes first." I smiled. "Absolutely. And that's why I need to make sure I'm making the right choices. I'll have an answer for you in about 8 days. Jason's eyes narrowed. "Why such a specific timeline?" I shrugged. "Just need to check a few things first." They didn't know it yet, but in exactly 8 days, their mortgage would default. The house would legally belong to me. They moved on quickly, trying to mask their frustration, but I could feel the tension growing. Later that night, as I stepped away to the restroom, I overheard their voices from Dad's office. "She's not going to help," Jason said bitterly. "Did you see how smug she was? Sitting there, pretending she doesn't have the money?" Mom's voice was softer, but no less cruel. "We need another way. We could find out where she's been investing. Maybe she's hiding money. A pause. Dad's voice cut through the air. I already looked. When she used our Wi-Fi last time, her cloud storage synced. She has money in a company called Nova Holdings. I gripped the doorframe, heart pounding, but not with fear.
They thought they had found something.
They had no idea they were looking at their own landlord's account. The call came exactly 12 minutes after their mortgage payment bounced. I had been waiting for it, watching the seconds tick down with the kind of calm that only comes from knowing you hold all the power. When my phone rang, I let it buzz a few times before answering. Mia. Mom's voice was high-pitched, panicked. Something's wrong with the mortgage payment. The bank says it was rejected. They're saying we defaulted, but that's impossible. Can you help? I leaned back in my chair, staring out the window, taking in the peaceful morning that had just become a nightmare for them. Actually, I said slowly, it's not a bank issue. A pause. What do you mean? I smiled to myself. Mom, Nova Holdings isn't a bank. Silence. Then, Dad's voice cut in, furious. What the hell are you talking about? I exhaled, savoring the moment. I mean, Nova Holdings, the company you just tried to send a payment to, is mine. I've been paying your mortgage for the past 4 years. The silence was deafening. Every month, I continued, you made a small deposit, and I covered the rest. You never bothered to check who actually owned the loan. You just assumed it was a bank. Why you're lying? Mom stammered. That's not possible. Check your email, I said. You'll find a formal notice explaining that, due to your default, Nova Holdings is exercising its purchase option.
The house is legally mine.
As of this morning, you're no longer homeowners. A crash on the other end, maybe a glass knocked over, or Jason throwing something in rage. You manipulative little. Jason's voice was shaking with fury. You did this to us? I laughed softly.
No, Jason.
You did this to yourselves. Mom started crying. Mia, please, you can't do this. This is our home. I let the words hang in the air before delivering the final blow. You have 2 choices, I said, voice even. Either you start paying rent to me under a new lease agreement, or you find somewhere else to live. The eviction process will begin in 30 days if I don't receive payment. The wailing on the other end was immediate. Dad swore under his breath. Jason exploded. You entitled little brat. After everything we've done for you? You think you can just... I cut him off. I don't think I can. I already did. Mom's sobs turned desperate. We're family, Mia. Family helps each other. I leaned forward, gripping my phone a little tighter.
Funny.
That's not what you were saying in that video. More silence. Then a whisper from Mom. You saw that?
Yeah.
And the texts. Another crash. Jason's voice barely contained his fury. You think you won? You think you're better than us? No, I said, standing up, looking at my reflection in the window. I know I am. I ended the call, blocked their numbers, and for the first time in my life, felt completely free. The messages started rolling in within an hour. Blocked numbers didn't stop them. They used different phones, different emails, even fake social media accounts. Each one carried a different tactic, as if they were throwing everything at the wall to see what might stick. First came the rage. Dad, you ungrateful little snake. We raised you, and this is how you repay us? I hope you understand what you've done. You've destroyed this family. Jason, you think you're some kind of genius? You're a pathetic excuse for a daughter and a sister. You'll regret this. Then came the guilt trips. Mom, Mia, please don't do this. I don't know what came over us, but you have to understand, we were just venting. You know we love you. You're our baby. Jason, I messed up, okay? But the family forgives. You can still fix this.
Just give us a chance.
When that didn't work, they tried manipulation. Mom, we'll tell the family what you did. You'll be the one they hate. Imagine Grandma knowing you threw us out on the street. Dad, you stole from us. We could get lawyers involved. You better reconsider before we take action. I rolled my eyes at that one. Lawyers?
Please.
I forwarded it straight to Kate. She responded in minutes. Let them try. They have no case. Every document is airtight. Legally, they have nothing. And they knew it. That was when the turning on each other began. I knew because Uncle Ray kept me updated. He had no love for Jason and my parents. He had seen them for what they were long before I did. Your mom is blaming your dad for signing the paperwork without reading it. Your dad is blaming Jason for screwing up the business and putting them in this position. Jason is furious that nobody read the mortgage terms and thinks it's not fair you tricked them. The golden boy was finally falling from grace. I almost felt bad. Almost. Then the public humiliation began. Word spread through the family. At first, my parents controlled the narrative, painting me as some kind of greedy, heartless monster who kicked them out for no reason. Then Uncle Ray stepped in. He sent the video,
The texts.
the proof. And just like that, the sympathy shifted. I got messages from aunts, cousins, distant relatives, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Aunt Lisa, Mia, I just saw the video. I had no idea they treated you like that.
I'm so sorry.
Cousin Ava, holy crap. You were paying for their house? And they were laughing at you? I would have done worse. Even Grandma, the one person I thought would always defend them, sent me a simple but powerful message. Grandma, you did the right thing. That was all I needed to hear. By the time the eviction notice arrived, Mom was in full begging mode. She called from a different number. Mia, please, where will we go? We can't afford another house right now. I thought about it for a long moment. Then I said, sounds like a problem. And I hung up. 2 weeks later, they were gone. They fought it. They stalled, tried to negotiate, tried to guilt me into reversing it, but the law was on my side. They had 30 days to vacate. They left in 28. Jason had to move into a tiny apartment. Dad went silent, too ashamed to face anyone. Mom tried to keep up appearances, but people knew the truth now. And me? I slept better than I had in years. No more guilt. No more obligations. Just peace. 1 year later, everything was different. I was different. Sitting backstage at one of the biggest tech conferences of the year, I adjusted the microphone clipped to my blazer and took a deep breath. The energy in the auditorium was electric, the buzz of conversation filling the space as thousands of industry leaders, investors, and young entrepreneurs gathered to hear from the best minds in the field. And I was about to take center stage. A woman in a headset approached, smiling warmly. You're up next, Mia. Ready? I nodded. I had never been more ready in my life. Moments later, the host's voice boomed over the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome today's keynote speaker, Mia Carter, CEO of Nova Holdings and one of the most influential innovators in the tech space. The applause was thunderous as I stepped onto the stage, the bright lights warming my skin. A year ago, I was being mocked at a dinner table, treated like a burden by people who saw me as nothing more than a wallet. Now, I was being celebrated for my achievements, standing in front of an audience that actually respected my value. I smiled and gripped the podium. When I started in this industry, I was told I wasn't cut out for it. I began scanning the crowd, that my work wasn't real, that I should stick to something safe, something practical. A few people chuckled knowingly. For years, I let those words get to me. I let people convince me that I owed them something, that I should feel guilty for my own success. I paused, letting the words sink in. But here's what I've learned. You don't owe anyone the success you built. You don't have to apologize for wanting more. You don't have to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. The applause was immediate. I smiled, because I knew somewhere out there they were watching. 2 weeks ago, I got a text from Jason. Guess you finally got what you wanted. Hope you're happy. I didn't reply. It was the first time he had reached out since the eviction, since they were forced to downsize into a small rental after losing the house I had kept afloat for years. From what I had heard through family, Dad had never recovered from the embarrassment of losing what he called his legacy. Mom had tried to save face, but people knew the truth now. Their social circles had shrunk, their reputation tarnished. And Jason? Without Dad's support, and without a house to leverage, his real estate business collapsed. They had no one left to blame but themselves. And the irony? Even after all their scheming, all their entitlement, they never figured out how to be financially independent. I had. And that's why I had won. Later that evening, after the conference, I found myself at a rooftop lounge, the city's skyline glowing beneath the stars. Across from me, Uncle Ray raised his glass, smirking. You did it, kid. I clinked my glass against his. We did. He had been my only real family through all of this. The one who showed me the truth when I refused to see it. The one who stood by me when the rest of them tried to tear me down. Do you ever regret it? He asked. I took a slow sip of my drink, looking out over the city. Did I regret it? Did I regret breaking free? Did I regret finally choosing myself after years of putting them first? I turned back to him, a slow smile spreading across my face. Not for a second.